Hello everyone and welcome. In this video we're going to talk about how to set up the development environment for the Alimenta esta idea.pt website. Before we jump into the matter itself, I want to talk about a little bit about the project itself and what we're doing with this web application, and then we're going to jump into the specific on how to clone the repository, open the solution in Visual Studio, and then be able to run that locally on your PC. So the website, as you can see right here, is a food bank donation website. This is a place where people can come over and make donations for the website of food, and then that food is going to be delivered to the food bank that you selected. As you can see here on the right, we have the actual number of all the food donated so far since the last campaign. There can be olive oil, milk, sausages, rice, and things like that. So the application is fairly simple because the thing that I help you is just basically make a donation where you need to select the items that you would like to donate. He automatically calculate the price in euros of all the amounts that you select. You can also say, hey, I want to make a donation of 120 euros, and he automatically calculate what will be the closest, let's say, to that amount. And then the next thing that you need to do is basically select what would be the food bank that you like to make that donation to. As you can see, all the locations are in Portugal. And the next thing is basically fill out all the information about yourself, like, hey, this is your name, your company, your email, things like that. You set the privacy policy and you make the donation. Then go to the payment page and process. We are in the production environment, and obviously in here, if you want to demo that, we would probably need to kind of make a donation with money. But for the development purposes, we have this other website which is exactly the same, but it's using a different environment. Like, for example, for the database, so you see the numbers are here are quite different for the one in production, and from here we can see and show you what would be a donation look like. So one of the things that we can do is we can click on donate. We select the things that we want to donate, like this. For example, we're gonna donate that to Evra. For example, I'm gonna put my name, my company, my email address, my country, and then I want to say, hey, do you want to receive, yes or no? You can add all this information. For now, no, I don't want, and then I'm gonna click on donate. The next step is he's going to the payment page, where, as you can see, we can select the type of payments that we want to be able to pay. So, for example, MBWay and Multibanco are a specific payment system that only available in Portugal. So only people who live in Portugal will be able. This is when they physically go to an ATM and drop the money. MBWay is a mobile application where users are being asked from their phone, and then they can pay through their phone. Credit card is something really easy. And then PayPal, it works everywhere. So for example, we're gonna select the credit card because we're using this payment processor, Easy Pay. So I select credit card. I say you're gonna pay 10.70 euros. You being redirect out of the let's say payment processor. The payment processor also has like a test environment that we can use. So I'm gonna put my name in here. Then the account number is if you want to test, like, hey, succeed, failure, decline, whatever. So we're gonna see that it was a succeed. The year, the security code, I set the privacy policy, my phone number, and then I click on yes. He says, hey, you're gonna pay for 10 euro, is that okay? Yes, I confirm. And then, as you can see, well, it give me the that your purchase has been authorized, and then I've been redirected back to the web application, to the thanks page. They say, hey, thank you for your donation, you can tweet that, and that would be awesome. Another thing that we also support is that, I don't know if you see, but here in the point you can register and you can log in the web application, and you can save all the donation that you did in the past, and then you can claim invoice, and it's easy for you. So for example, register, we support multiple registration process. Like you can register in the site itself, or you can use an external identity provider, like for example Google, Microsoft, or Facebook. So I'm gonna log in with my own account and I show you exactly how this process is, because the moment that you log in into your account, as you can see, I already been logging into my Microsoft account. It says, hey, hello Luis Guerrero, this is me. Now you see the web page, the homepage is being simplified because he knows that you are logged in, so he help you donate. And when you are making the donation, he actually fill out all the information for you automatically, so it's easy for you to do the checkout, and we have this refresh information for you. You can also click in the in manage, and then you can see information about your own account, like for example your phone number. You can edit all this information, but one of the most important thing is that you can go and see your donation history, like all the donation that you've been made. As you can see, this is the one that I just did right now. And one of the things that I can do is I can click on the invoice and automatically can generate an invoice for that particular donation. It's gonna render a PDF file that, well, it says, yeah, this is not a real invoice, of course, because we are in the development environment. And I can use that for my record to know that, yeah, I pay like 10 euros. Here it says that in Portuguese, like 10 euros de 60 céntimos. And yeah, that's it. This is like a classical ISP.NET Core identity web page that has the email, the password, and more information. So now that we have that in mind, the next step for you is that you should probably go to GitHub, to the Banco Alimentar, Alimenta esta idea.pt, which is the private repository that holding the web application. The project it's done by using ASP.NET Core, and yeah, we have like two main branches. We have master, where we have the code that is already in production in this URL that you see right here, and then we have the other branch, which is developer, and developer is the branch that is where we're merging everything before pushing that into production. So everything that is being pushed into developer is in this slot right here in Azure. And when we create a new functionality, one of the things that we do is that we create a new a new branch for that particular functionality. And then when we're doing a PR, we're doing that PR against that developer branch. So we kind of group together different, let's say, code changes into developer, and then when we have that, what we do is a PR from developer to master when we test everything in there, and then we do the swap. We have another environment called pre-prod, where it has the let's say access to the production environment, where we can do payments and all of that, and then we swap. And so it's a way for us to kind of test that in an environment that has real data and real payment processors. And if everything is okay, we can do the swap. So our expectation is that when you clone the repository, you probably have access to the GitHub repository. You already clone the repository. In my case, I'm working on the Git folder. So as you can see, I can list that, and this is Alimenta esta idea.pt, so I can access to that folder, and you're gonna see that we have exactly the same files that we have in Azure, in GitHub, but in the file system. The next thing that we need to do is open this SLN to open the solution. Because this is an ASP.NET Core, we can pretty much use the tool that we want. We can use Visual Studio, or we can use Visual Studio Code. This is up to you. This is something that whatever you feel it's okay, because both tools are 100% supported. In my case, I'm going to use Visual Studio, the full version, because I feel more comfortable developing in that. But again, if you, for example, developing in macOS or in Linux, you can use Visual Studio Code, and your developer experience is going to be the same. So I just need to click on that, and then the first time that you open the solution, is going to load all the project. But one of the things that he's going to do is basically trying to resolve all the NuGet dependencies that we have in the project, because we have so many NuGet packages. So it's going to take a while to automatically download all these NuGet packages in here. So as you can see, yeah, we have multiple projects, but in the background is doing that, let's say that resolving those dependencies. We say in here, and then as you can see, dependencies is, yeah, doing his stuff and resolving them. Perfect. So let me go through a little bit about how we organize the solution itself, like what are the different projects means, how we can run that project locally, what about the secrets, how we can connect to this development environment database and all of that. And then we're gonna run, and then we can set a breakpoint and see how we can commit new code into GitHub. So the first thing that you notice is that we have 7 projects in the solution. The first one is the web, which is the web application. This is a classical ASP.NET Core web application. We're using .NET Core 5, which is the latest version. And then when the .NET 5 is RTM, we're going to migrate that because we believe that we should be always on the latest version because of performance, security, and all of the stuff. So yeah, this is pretty much a regular ASP.NET Core application. We're using Razor pages to render the UI. So as you can see, for example, in here we have the donation page, and that in here we have the HTML and all the Razor, let's say, markup of that donation page that we see right here. And then what we have in the CSHTML is the page model behind. So this is where like all the logic that this page is going to need right there. Then we also have a couple of APIs. The reason for that is because EasyPay, it has this kind of notification system where it's sending us notification about things that are happening in the payment process. Or like, for example, a payment has been completed, a payment has been canceled. So in the future, we want to support subscriptions so people can subscribe and then make weekly or monthly like donations, and we have an API for that. So as you can see, we have like 2 controllers. One is the EasyPay generic, and the other one is the EasyPay payment, where we receive information about the payment, and then we can update or register or about the donation and confirm that this donation has been paid, maybe send the invoice through email, things like that. So that's why we have those API. We complain with whatever EasyPay tell us to do. That would be the web application. Then we have like 2 different libraries. One is model. As you can see, it's Banco Alimentar.alimenta esta idea.model. In here, what we have is all the classes that represent the database by using Entity Framework Core code first. So that's mean that we're gonna have classes that doesn't generate for anything. Well, they generate from object, but they don't have anything else. And this is the representation. We're still, resolving dependencies. Let me build the solution in the background. So as you can see, this is the representation of the table. For the database, we're using SQL Server that represent a donation. So we have the ID, the public ID, the user, the food bank, where this donation belong to, the payment status, service reference, the NIF, like a lot of information about the payment. So as you can see, every entity, like for example, the invoice, this is like the class that represent an invoice, or for example, I talked before about the subscription, or about, for example, the food bank. The food bank is one of the, the easy, because it's just an ID and the name of the food bank. So this project only contain the definition of the model, and then it contain like the entity framework, the DB context of the entity framework core, in here where you can access all the database from here. The next step is that we also have, because as I said, we're using, yeah, I don't know why is this thing still showing some error. Let me rebuild the solution. So in here, one of the things that we're doing is that we're using ASP.NET Core Identity to support, as I said before, the login process. So I can see my identity. We can log in using multiple login provider like Microsoft, like Facebook, Google, or the website itself. For that, we have this identity folder where we have information about the user. This, for example, class has inherits from this identity user that is from the ASP.NET Core, let's say, system. So it's basically everything that ASP.NET support for us, plus some information that we have, like the NIF, the company name, address, things like that. So this is being taken care of, and we have an identity system in place for the user. The next step is the repository project. The repository project is where we holding all the business logic that we're using in the project to basically make the system work, right? So we're using this repository pattern to, for example, we have the donation repository, and in here what we have is like all the logic related with that donation, and that it's like a high level functions that access the database and do whatever stuff they need to be done. In this method, for example, is getting the total donation. So you give me a list of product catalog. The product catalog is the list of product from the home page, because we also support even having multiple products. And then for that, I'm going to give you the totals result, like the total amount of element, which is basically this calculation that you see right here. So in here we have like everything related to supporting donation, making donation, getting the information, all of that. So we have a donation repository. We have also, for example, a invoice repository. As you can see, we're using dependency injection to basically request like all the different classes and services that this class needs. So we have, for example, as a dependency in the application DB context, the telemetry client from application inside, and the memory cache, because in some cases we cache some elements in memory. The entry point of all this logic that you see right here is this EU unit of work. We're using this pattern. So when you want to access to all this business logic, the only thing that you need to reference is this e-unit of work, this interface. And as you can see here, you have access to all the donation repository, but they're going to share most of the things. So with that, we can dynamically create on every request that, and ASP.NET Core is going to handle that for us, and we don't need to worry about how those objects are going to be constructed. So if we go for example to the donation page that we were before, as you can see, instead of just injecting like all the different repositories that we may want to use in the page, the only thing that we inject is the unit of work, this context, and this context property is going to be used in so many different places. So for example, like in here we access in the donation item repository. In here we're using the user repository. In here the food bank repository. So it's very fancy because it's like, okay, in here I have everything that I need in any place to access the business logic. So that's why it should work. Another thing worth mentioning is that because we're using Entity Framework Core and we're using a code first approach, as I said, like we have classes that represent the table, one of the things that we're using is Entity Framework migrations to evolve the schema of the database. So we have this folder in the web project called migrations, and as you can see, we have all the different migrations that the project has been passing through. So if we open one of the files, what we're gonna see is that a class, this code has been generated automatically by the tool, but it's basically a class that generates from migration, that represent a migration, and they always have two methods, an up method and a down method. The up is basically apply the migration. It's like from the state of the schema right now, when we did apply this migration in the past, in here the thing that we're doing is adding a new column. Because, for example, we thought that in the donation table, it would be nice to also have the NIF, which is like the national ID for the user, in there as well. So we specify the type, the mass length, if it's nullable or not. Yeah, classical SQL stuff. This is going up, but we can also revert migration, and we can go back in time. And this is exactly what the down method is doing down here. Is telling, okay, so if going up is adding a column, going down is basically dropping a column. So it says, hey, go to the table donation and drop this NIF column. We have documentation, and actually, because we're using Entity Framework Core, there is this migration overview that give you like an overview on how that's migration tool and how you can create the schema from scratch. So you can use the .NET Core CLI and type .NET Entity Framework Database Update. You can do that through Visual Studio. So you can go here in Visual Studio to Tools, NuGet Package Manager, and the NuGet Package Console, and then you can type those commands in here, or you can go through in the command line and set .NET Entity Framework, and then he's gonna write that for you. I don't have that, so I need to install the tool first. But in here they give you like, hey, how you can create the model. As you can see, in Visual Studio is use add a migration, the name of the migration, and that's it. This is all the things that you see in here. This is the names of the migration at the time. This is how you do that in the .NET Core CLI. And then you have the update, which is basically update database is going to whatever connection string you have in the project and apply the latest migration right there. So it's really, really, really fancy to maintain that. So I'm explaining this because maybe you're gonna need to modify the schema of the database, like adding a new table or adding a new column for whatever functionality you're working on. Don't be afraid of that, because we have like two different environments in Azure. Remember that we have the development environment and the production. So we are happy for you to do all the changes that you want in the developer, because we kind of have all the keys and all the connection strings separate from the production. So there is no way for you to kind of merge that. And then when we swap in from the development into the production, we will take care of also applying the migration of the database in production. Okay, so now we see so far that we have the model project, which is containing like all the definition of the tables and the data that we're going to use in the project. We have the repository, which is all the logic that we need for the web application. Then we have the web project. Then we have a couple of other projects like PayPal. This is an implementation of the PayPal API, the version 2 that we have right here. Then we have a couple of tests. For the testing, one of the things that we have is we have repository tests. Like we testing concrete functionality of the repositories. This is something that we would like to expand. Right now, we didn't have much time in doing so, and actually, this is a commitment for us. But first, we believe that the approach is to kind of be able to make donation, and then we can think about improving our engineering effort for the project. But as you can see now, the unit test, I mean, I can go to the test text explorer, and I can show you all the tests that we have right here. We have like two type of tests. We have something we call the unit testing, or we can say somehow integration testing, like for example this one, where we testing different parts. In here, one of the things that is happening in this let's say repository test is that for that, what we're doing is that we have because we're using Entity Framework, we have an in-memory database service for that. So we are not even touching the kind of the database in production. So it's easy for us to just execute a test, and all of that is going to be in a SQL Server memory, or sorry, in a database in memory. And then after the test, everything will be discarded and and that's it. And then we have a little bit more sophisticated integration tests, and those integration tests, what we're doing is that for example, we have this donation test that what it does is it simulate that you making a request to the donation page, we parsing the HTML, we getting the donation form, we adding some value, and then we just making a request, but through the let's say through the HTTP web server, simulating that we are a user, and then we go to the user manager and to the repository, finding that that page actually do what it says it does. It's a little bit more fancy. The way that we're doing that is because in ASP.NET Core, there is a way for us to host the ASP.NET runtime in the test environment. And again, in here we're using an in-memory database. We building all the services, like everything that we need to make sure that the web application can be executed. And that means that when we, for example, calling this client is it's like an HTTP client that is going to call the HTTP server, or the ASP.NET Core HTTP server, hosted in that testing environment, whatever the URL and the port is, and then we will be able to make requests to that. So this is a little bit more fancy because we can, for example, have a donation, then this is another donation, but it doesn't have all the values, and then this is with missing required fields, and then we make sure that, hey, of course it doesn't work because we have our, let's say, model validation and things like that. Okay, so the next step would be how to run the web application. And for that, one of the things that we're going to talk about is how we're handling the secrets and the configuration in the web project. As you can see here, we have this app setting.json where we have some of the basic configuration of the project. The only thing that we have in here is the application inside instrumentation key. But at the end, if you go to the program .cs, what we're doing is that we're using Azure Key Vault and Azure Application Configuration to basically grab the configuration setting from Azure Key Vault when we are in production or we are in a staging environment. But when we're working on development, we have multiple options to set up the configuration. As you can see, there is nothing on the app setting.json. That's why because we can set up the, let's say, the configuration using environmental properties, or the best approach that we think is using secrets. For that, one of the things that you can do is you can right click on the project and then click on manage user secrets, and here it's going to show you all the secrets JSON in your file, system, because this is the first time that we open the solution. You see the secret.json is an empty file, but I'm going to give you this path of this is where the file of those secrets are located. This is because in the, let's say, in the project itself, we have this user secret ID, and all the project in that solution, like all the projects that need to be run, for example, like the testing, is also have the same secrets ID in case that we want to use that. So the same secrets are going to apply to all the project. So as part of this, let's say, collaboration, you may receive like all the secret JSON is a JSON file that you need to right click in there, paste that let's say secret in there, and then you will be able to execute that. If you're using Visual Studio Code and for example using that in Linux or Mac OS and other operating system, there is this documentation page from the ASP.NET Core team where you can see how to store safely the secrets where you are in development in your ASP.NET Core application. So in here to tell you, hey, this is the whatever your location of the secrets is in Windows, this is in Linux and Mac, and this is how you enable that using the .CLI. As you can see, this is the same property that we have in our project, how you set a secret, how you retrieve it. I mean, all the things in here through the command line. So yeah, I'm gonna pause the video for a second. I'm gonna paste the secrets, and because I don't want them to be viewed. And then the next time that when we continue, we're gonna have that, and then we can run the application. Because if we try right now, one of the things that is gonna happen is that it's gonna tell us, hey, I don't know how to connect to the database, and like connections and secrets to all the different services that we use, like for example the PayPal provider or the payment provider and things like that. So it's probably going to throw an exception and fail. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Well, format of the string doesn't contain, well, it's basically complaint that is empty. All right, so now we have the secrets in place, and now I can click on the IIS Express, and as you can see right now, we're using localhost and this random port, and now we are able to fully execute the web application in my PC. As you can see, I'm debugging. It works everything, like for example I can log in because we have this URL as one of the redirect URL for the development environment. So I can, for example, log in using my Microsoft account, and then go back to this page, and then it works, and then I can access my donation history. Yeah, like put everything in localhost. So one of the things that I can do is, for example, I can go to the pages, donation, and then I can scroll down into the, for example, on post. In here I can set up a breakpoint, and then when I'm making a donation, like add a couple of items, I select the food bank, and then I say, hey, I set the privacy policy, I click on donate, and as you can see, the bagger is back in here and say, hey, you are on the post. So I can safely debug and execute everything that I need in here. So yeah, I can debug and do whatever I want. So we fully support that locally. It's going to be the same exactly for Visual Studio Code. Like you can open the solution in Visual Studio. So we can say code dot, and in the file system where we have the solution, and we can, for example, go to the web, go to the pages, donation HTML, and then yeah, you may need to install the extension for C#. Yeah, that is fine. He's gonna download the debugger and all that, and yeah, it should be fine. Yeah, it's asking us, hey, what would be the project that you're using? So it would be the solution itself. So as you can see, it's basically trying to compile the solution and adding all the dependencies. So yeah, now as you can see, we have the colors and everything. It's ready to code. One last thing is, I don't know if you notice in the code, but all the code is well documented. Like everything, like all the file has this copyright here, like all the classes in the web application. For example, in the repository pattern, like everything is like using C# documentation and everything. Because there are multiple, let's say, team collaborating with the project. One of the things that we want to make sure is that the code is it looks the same in all the project. And because we have multiple teams engaging from different, let's say, part of the organization and also external organization, we want to make sure that the code looks the same or fairly the same. So one of the things that we set up is that we set up the style code analyzer, which is let's say Rosling analyzer that help us to standardize the code style in the solution. So it's basically tell us what to do when we're writing code. Another thing that we also do is that we treat, when we build in the solution, like all the warnings as errors. So we don't want to have any warning at all and if we find some warning, we're going to treat it as an error. So for example, if I go to one of these places, and for example in here remove this and then save the file, he's going to complain because the style copy says, hey, the closing brace should be followed by a blank line. This is a warning, right? But because we're treating warning as an error, if I build a solution, it's going to fail and it's not going to let you continue. At the beginning could be like a little bit annoyed because it's like, okay, he's telling me that and I need to kind of do that. But one other thing is, as you can see, it gives you this small bulb light that you can put on top of that and say, hey, insert a blank line after the brace. So it gives you the possibility to do that at the level of the document, at the level of the project, and at the level of the solution. So for example, if you know that you have that, you can basically say, okay, no document, and he automatically like preview the changes you can apply, and that's it, automatically remove. So that is really important for us because we want to make sure that the code is in a good shape, because if not, different part of the solution are going to look different and we don't want that. And because of that, we choose a style cop just to standardize the code and the style and everything. And we also apply that to the web application, right? Like you go to the web application and everything is commented, even the program, like configuration extension, like everything that we have it's commented and it has everything. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that you have a very productive session with the project, and we're super happy and excited to have you on board.